To go back a bit to last year, we can see our top trends then were data analytics, cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity, zero trust. Generative AI made it lower towards the list, but it was starting to be on the minds of people last year. But obviously, that's exploded over the past 12 months. So I'm sure we'll get into that a bit today in our discussion. But to start out, we'll start at a more basic level. We're going to hop over to our macro view survey. We're currently polling for our January 2024 edition, but for now, we base this off our data from October 2023. And excuse me, whenever you need it the most, fails to load. But we're going to start taking a high level look at spending trends. So we can see here that overall growth 2023 versus 2022 was about a 3% year-over-year growth. And that amount actually tapered down a bit for fourth quarter specifically, but we're a bit more optimistic heading into 2024. And our survey takers, a pool of about 1,700 IT decision makers, they seem to feel a little bit more optimistic about next year with nearly a 4% increase. So to start out here, I want to ask you how this relates to what you're seeing on the ground. What type of budget growth are you expecting for the next calendar year?
We are seeing between 3 and 4% growth. So that is unfortunately being taken up through primarily increases in SaaS services, other software that we're using. Over the past few years, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride when it comes to things like laptops and other hardware. Fortunately, I think that is starting to moderate, so we're getting a little bit of price relief there, but that is being gobbled up by those increases in the other vendors. But on the whole, 3 to 4%.
Sure. And so that's basically right in line with our survey takers. And to kind of jump off that, obviously it's been a tough year too, quasi-recessionary environment and lots of inflation, obviously, near historic levels. And I'm just curious how that all the recessionary environment and inflation, what sort of impact has that had on your organization's technology spending?
Oh, it really hits us from both sides. So I think sales cycles are a little bit longer. Some clients may be, canceling or deferring large software purchase decisions, and at the same time, things are not cheaper out there. So groceries and homes and everything else is expensive. So it puts pressure on the labor side, expectations in terms of increases to have people keep up with the rate of inflation. So yeah, you really are getting it from both sides.
Sure. And then on that note, so have you been seeing on the technology side too, vendors maybe increasing their prices along with the inflation? And do you think that's in line, or do you think maybe there's a discrepancy with how much prices are rising on the technology side?
I think they're using it a little bit too much as an opportunity to increase. I've heard, you know, in situations where, it's 10% or 15% increases, sometimes, 25% or more. So it really depends on the segment, the type of software or service that you're talking about. But I think they're probably taking it a little bit too much of an extreme, and they're doing that for the same reasons. I think their sales cycles are slowing. They are still getting the cost pressures. So in order to maintain that level of growth that they're communicating out to the street, if they're a public company or if they're trying to become a public company, that needs to be compelling. And so the only thing that they have left to do is to raise prices on existing customers. And if it's a software or service that is, sticky or, very integral to people's operations, it's a lot harder to pull away from that, or at least in the short term, be able to pull away from that. So you could be just stuck with having to deal with those increases and then finding relief elsewhere in your budget to pay for them.